Okay, this is the SIG M17 and I'm now going to show a little mod that's going to make it a lot more accurate and stop the barrel wandering around. On some of these videos that you're about to see, you'll see that there is this blue piece of tubing fitted on the pusher spring in that area there. Please disregard this. This was an earlier mod which I carried out, which was unsuccessful. I apologise for this video being somewhat disjointed, but it was filmed and hasn't really been edited as I actually carried out the jobs, so there are obviously some mistakes here and there. I should now point out that this is my demonstration of what I have done to this gun. Anything you do is entirely up to you and your risk. Anything you do will invalidate the guarantee, so you must accept that, and you must evaluate whether what you're doing is, in your opinion, to be safe or not safe. So all you're going to see is what I have done and suggestions that you can do. If you're not at all competent in engineering or doing any of these jobs, then please do not do them. Okay, this is the SIG M17. Yours may not be the same, but this is what I found on mine. So to start off with, obviously we disassemble, have to break it down. Okay, now what I found on mine is that the barrel will move very, very slightly in relation to the actual body itself. Now this is due to this little piece here that locks the barrel in position. Obviously if you push, you may not know this, but if you push it down, it's not the easiest thing in the world, you can remove the barrel and the recoil system, which we'll put to one side for the moment. So it's on a spring. As you can see, if you look in the end, how it operates, that comes up and clicks into the slot on there. Now on mine, when it's in and locked in, the actual pin arrangement there that comes up and locks the barrel doesn't come up and actually touch the barrel. It actually is held down by this black piece here, which is located by two screws, which I've already taken out. Now to give you a clue of what's actually happening is, if I, hopefully you can see this, if I press on the, I've taken my screws out already. So if I press on the black, can you see the actual metal piece here which locks the barrel is going up and down? So when you've got the screws in and the black piece is held down, then the spring arrangement isn't forcing the barrel up into its housing. It's still firmly located, but it does allow the barrel to have a little bit of flex. I'm now holding the black piece down where the screws are, and the barrel is, if you can see that, is moving very slightly up and down. Now if I take the screws out, which I've done, so this black piece is now free, this part here now is pushed hard up against the barrel, and now there is negligible, if any, movement of the barrel. So what we have to do is to remedy that, and this is how we do it. We're now going to cover removing the material from this surface here, such that the button allows to sit up further and locate the barrel. Now when I first filmed this, unfortunately the video didn't come out and I didn't check it, so you're already seeing where I've polished the top surface here. That is covered later on in the video. So at the moment all we're interested in doing is that surface there. As you can see, if I hold it there and on the other side there, you need to take a small file and gently file to reduce that by about sort of 0.2 of a millimeter. So that covers that side of it. So that's it. Okay. So you keep doing that until it fits. So file a little bit off Load it back into the gun. Barrel in. Top on. Push down firmly. And while viewing the button, make sure that when you push down, the button doesn't move. Right, I've now finished doing my filing. Make sure there's no burrs. And again, give it a good clean. No swarf or bits of metal kicking around. Put the springs back in. Don't forget there's two. Put the body, load in. Barrel, remembering the flat surface up. Locked in. Take your black cover, put it on top, and now when I squeeze the black cover down, there's no movement at all with the release. So you can now put the screws back in. So while we're here, we'll do the second mod. Again, you need to take the barrel out. Now this is a mod to the barrel itself and its inner and its outer. Right, so we've now taken the barrel out, we take the inner out, so it's a twist and a pull. And the actual barrel itself comes out, and there's a small spring. Now everything we need to coat in grease, because the actual barrel itself is a sloppy fit inside here. But don't forget the spring. Also grease this end thoroughly, where the receiver for the pellet goes on. That then becomes quite a nice fit. Try not to get the ends muddled up, because one is obviously the input side and the other side has a slight recess cut into it like a countersink, which is the exit side for the pellet. Having greased it all up, load it back in. You have a little notch there. Push and twist, and that locates quite firmly. I also rub some grease on the outside of this surface here, which also helps locate it. Then take the main body and we start to put it back together. So load it in, flat surface up, push down, and as you go in, nice solid click, which it's engaged. Then we can add our cover back on with the screws. Once that's screwed in, you'll find that if you rub your finger now across the top, there's a slight proudness of this part here. Now what you have to bear in mind is that the actual recoil system, it's this part here, actually that part where my finger is rests on top of there. And you can probably see on mine that there is some marks there where it's been rubbing over the top of it. So if you've got that and that's slightly proud, then the next job really is to file this surface here. So again, we take it apart and we just roll the file over this part to reduce the overall height by about 0.2, 0.3 of a millimetre, which is what I'll now do. Right, I've now filed mine down and then given it a polish with some 600 wet and dry, and it's just take off the corners as well so there's no hard edges there. Right, let's see if I've taken enough off now, so we'll put it back together. Forget to insert the springs. Put the body, insert it in, make sure both springs have gone in. Barrel in, locked. Black piece which holds it all together. Push down and just rub your finger over and see if there's any proud areas there. I can't feel any. What I will do is though, I'll now just polish up this particular area here, which is obviously also riding on the road coil system. So that's what I'll do next. So again, to do that, you need to disassemble. Now this time you need to put some rags in the hole and around the outside, because we're filing this area. We don't want any crap from the filings getting down inside. And once you've filed that to a nice smooth finish, then obviously you need to thoroughly clean it off using a degreaser, and then obviously re-grease everything ready to putting it back together. I've now polished up this surface here so it's nice and smooth. I've also put a slight chamfer on the leading edge there and a slight chamfer on the leading edge at the back. So now we put the whole thing back together. Obviously I've cleaned all the swarf off. So we load in, push down, load in the barrel. And put our top piece on. That's got a nice smooth surface there. So we can now do up our screws, which I seem to have lost. Right, found the 2 screws, the normal Phillips. There's nothing odd about any of the screws on this gun. Don't need to over tighten them, just nip. And on the other side. Nip them up, double check. Right, we now have to fit the recoil system. So again, release the barrel and the recoil. Curve side facing up, which is the barrel where the barrel goes. Barrel in, locked in. So we can now put it back together. So in on the top, and then keeping low pressure towards both hands, drops down. And again, keeping pressure on there, carry on back till it drops. And as you come forward, you can engage and follow the curve as you go. There we go. So that's that modification done. Right, so the next mod to do now is where the actual slider, or recoil, whatever you want to call it, actually rubs on the part that we polished up just now. So we need to take it apart again. As you can see, that's the area there, where my finger is, that actually rubs or locates on that surface there. Now, if you rub your finger over it, you can feel there's a casting mark, a quite pronounced affair, and you can see actually where it's, if I catch it in the light, where it's actually catching. So what we need to do is to run some emery in there just to give that a nice smooth transition. So that's the next job we'll do. But to do that, obviously we need to clean any of the grease and oil out of there. Right, so with the emery paper and your finger in there, just a gentle move backwards over the ridge. I'm using probably about a 200 grit here at the moment. You can finish it off with some 600 to give it a nice smooth finish. As you can see, there's definitely a line there. Just catch that in the light, and if you rub your finger you can actually feel it. So keep working away. Right into the corners. Now I won't bore you with this anymore, but keep going until you lose the line, and we'll come back when I've finished. Right, there we go. So I've got rid of the line on there, so then we need to just polish it up a bit. I'll just run some 600 in there. It's obviously taken some of the paint off on the sides as well. Right, now next job is to thoroughly clean this. Make sure there's no swarf anywhere, which I will now do. Right, so that's now all nicely polished up. So then we just need to give it a slight smear of grease over the inside. Literally just a touch, just to make sure the surfaces are covered. And wipe off any excess down the edges. And taking the main body, again, really sparingly amount over the exposed surfaces. Just a slight film. Now what I also do is I tend to put quite a bit of grease on the rear mechanism here, which is what the blowback bit slides over. And that tends to help seal the blowback going over this part, such that there's less chance of gas escaping and not doing its job of pushing the pellet down. As we now reassemble. Push back, so it drops down, come forward. And then just clean off a bit of the grease that's showing in the breech area. There we go, that's a lot better. So it's quite a nice movement. It may benefit from cleaning this area up here, but I don't think so. It doesn't look to me as though the mechanism is actually touching that area. But there'll be witness marks inside if it is. Right, so that completes that part of the modification. Right, now we move on to our next modification, which is the sights, which is on the slider. They're obviously separate to the barrel. Now if you look from the side, I can actually, I'm moving that by a good 1.5 millimeters at that end. As you can see, the barrel doesn't move. So the sights aren't always looking where the barrel's looking. Now the barrel, or the slider should I say, is located over the barrel, but it's a sloppy fit, and on the part with the spring, which is behind there. Up, down movement. As you can see, this pin here that it slides on is actually moving with the slider. If I come back to there, it's quite dramatic. So that's the next job we have to try and sort out, is to stop this flexing. Now there's various ways of doing that, and I will go away and have a think about it. Right, I'm still thinking about it, just to pronounce or show you exactly what the problem is with the accuracy, is if we look at this gap between the slider and the main frame, and as I pull the trigger back, which I'll do this slowly, there, at that point there, can you see the slider drops down? That's as the mechanism back here is starting to cock it. So as you're aiming, as you pull the trigger, your actual aim point changes. So that's a definite problem. We have to do something to lock this down. Not really important where it's locked down, as long as it doesn't keep changing from one shot to the next. I mean, if I take it from that point there and then pull back on the trigger, there, it's come down. Well, that doesn't look a lot. At 10 yards or 25 yards, that's quite an awful lot that it's going to move by. Okay, I've given it some thought over the last couple of days on trying to sort out this barrel problem. I think I've come up with an answer. So just as a recap, lots of play, and if we look in the end there, let's bring up the camera. As you can see, if you're using the sights, they're not exactly going to follow where the barrel's pointing. So what I've come up with is a additional piece to add, which I've made up myself, which obviously I can supply. Right, the mod I've done is this small piece here, and that locates slider. It self-locates, drop it in and push it down firmly, and then if you look in the end, I don't know if you can see it, probably not because the light's bad, it effectively gives a small pack to the barrel and makes the barrel ride on the actual top of the unit there. So it actually slides quite nicely. What it does mean, however, is that disassembling it isn't quite so easy. So that's that option. That's that. Right, we'll show you how that works in a moment. Let's put it together and you can see the difference. So slide it in. Right, now if we look down the barrel here, I'm moving the slide as best I can, and as you can see there is no movement there at all. And if we take the slider back, again I'm moving and there's no movement. There's also no sideways movement. If you look from the side, no movement, and putting the trigger back, again, no movement. So now, wherever your sights are pointing, the barrel is also pointing. The disadvantage is that it has restricted how far back the slider will actually go, but it still goes back far enough to operate in the blowback function and still operates enough to take it apart. So if we come back round and take him out, it's a bit more finicky to load it in because obviously we've now restricted the actual orifice that the barrel goes into. The actual piece that's gone in there is a tight fit and is also held in location with this piece here. So putting it together is straightforward. There we go. And it's a nice action. It's smooth now with no movement. Again, taking it apart, it's a bit finicky because it gets a little bit tight, but you don't do this every day. Right, so now our next part to look at is the sights. Now the sights are fixed on this one, so I'm going to give some thought now on replacing these sights at this end and making them movable left, right and up and down. I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to do that, but we'll give it a go, and I'll do another video if as and when I come up with an answer on that one. I've already investigated, and actually that top part of the sight is held on by 2 screws underneath. So if I can come up with something that bolts onto there or screws onto there to replace that, it's just held on with the 2 screws. That's the end of this video for the moment. Thank you very much.